I'm up. I'd like to call to order the Town of Ulysses Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for 19 March 2025. Members in attendance are Karen Metter, Andy Hillman, Kim Moore, and me, Steve Morielli. Also in attendance is our town planner, Niels Tigeson, and our recorder, Molly Duell, who will be documenting our proceedings tonight. We have a few people in Zoom land, and it looks like none of the board members, so we don't have any board members in attendance here. Linda's going to attend tonight. Do we know? Just one.
Linda
Little, yeah.
I haven't heard.
It's rare to see her not up on the time. Okay. I think the first thing I want to talk about is membership or board members. What's the status of board members right now? So is Karen official all the way to as a
Karen was appointed as a
that
full member in January.
good. Okay. And I just had that on a note and I did never crossed it off and said it was a good. Thank you. And then so what about Kim
Kim as an alternate.
tonight? And when we can move her, when can we move her up
That would be
to the board, right?
If Kim wants to be a full member, that'd be a discussion and then kicking it to the town board for that. If you want to have that conversation.
So we had to put that to the board, basically.
The board has to appoint that.
Okay. And all right. So I guess before we continue, I'd like to hear a motion to appoint Kim as a voting member of BZA tonight. So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that? Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody want to put a vote in to have him say yes to a permanent spot?
But we should, we can have a card for Dave, right?
I don't have one. I mean,
I don't know if Chris email. I didn't see, but there is a card in at least your mailbox with a check sheet for people to sign off on.
okay.
Yeah.
It's in her mailbox?
Your
I'll
mailbox.
set it up. We have one, so we'll have one for it.
Thanks.
All right,
Thanks,
we'll do that.
Karen.
Thank you.
And I believe
Good reminder.
Chris is just waiting for an obit to be printed before it goes out on the newsletter.
Okay. And so we'll have to tell Cheryl. Cheryl asked if we could leave it somewhere for her so she could just can't be here tonight. Okay, good. Thank you. Does anyone have anything to add to the agenda tonight?
No.
I don't. Niels, did you have anything you were going to add or later on?
I don't, well, just a heads up, we have one application that came in today, so
Oh, so we're on for next.
we're on for April.
Okay, everybody hear that? Uh-oh.
Yes.
You won't be here?
We'll see.
Okay. I think you should. I think it's better for you to be together. And then we're gonna have to also have a discussion with the board to get another member for us.
I believe there's an application coming in. I haven't seen it yet, but
Okay, they're already working on it or
Yeah.
something. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
First item on the agenda is a review of the meeting minutes from 19th February, 2025. I'd like to invite any edits. Anybody have any edits, corrections, or questions? I'll give you a couple of minutes to look at it, a couple of seconds. I'll start, Molly. I have page 2. Let's go to the first, the second paragraph there, I guess. The paragraph starting with Hillman. There's just something on that first line. Hillman asked the maple tree. Hillman asked the maple tree that may be in Tram's path could remain in place. Something's wrong with that sentence, right?
If,
Yeah.
And then if the tram is constructed further north, hill shaping may be needed in walking distance. So who's saying that? That was really my big question. Like, was that? Do we know? Was that part of your question? Or was that Richie,
I think it was,
Mr. Richie?
yeah, I think it was.
He was saying, well, if it goes further north.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I just had who said this because it didn't follow from Andy,
Okay, I'll add.
but I think you gotta fix that sentence anyway.
Explained.
Hillman asked the maple tree. I don't think he did. Probably about, right, about the maple tree. Right. You agree?
Yeah, yeah,
I think it should be asked about the maple tree that may be in the train's path
yes,
or whether. Whether, I get it, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
whether,
Ask whether the maple tree that may be in the train's path could remain in place.
Okay.
yeah, that's why I was saying if,
Yes, if it could, yes. Yeah. That was being asked, but, okay. And then I just don't know who's that, somebody said if the train was constructed further to the north, hill shaping may be needed. I feel like that was a response.
Okay, I'll add Richie explained that.
Yeah, okay, all right, right. And that's all I can come up with. You're amazing. That was excellent job. Anybody else have? Any little-
No.
Come on, something nitpicking, you gotta get on something. A comma
Should
somewhere?
Finger Lakes be capitalized? That's my question.
What, Finger Lakes?
Yeah,
Probably.
I got a squiggly blue line under it.
Yeah, and you mean his?
Yeah.
From his business, you mean?
No, I was just talking about the lakes in general,
Oh.
I guess.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Changing up.
Anything?
No, I'm with you on that, Molly, because right after that you have Lake Ontario and it's capitalized. so
Yeah,
just-
it's in the place name usually. Yeah. Andy. Okay, is there a motion to pass the minutes with the corrections?
Motion to accept minutes.
Maybe second. All right, discussion, good, it's called the vote. Aye.
Am I actually voting?
Sure.
Yeah, then sorry.
We-
I wasn't sure if I
That's when we
could
get
actually
early
start voting
voting number,
yet,
yeah.
or I thought there was some word talk about going to town board first.
No, that's only for the permanence of it, you know, so basically as an alternate. We just have to say, oh, by the way, alternate one, we do this voting on today.
No problem.
Well, next when we go to that resolution. And you must just. Thank you. Our first item of new business is, you have to bear with me on this one, because I'm gonna hand this over to Niels pretty soon. First item is a review of the proposal by Marvin and Allison Fritz to donate a portion of the land to the town for the purpose of establishing the town park. The proposal would be subject to several review processes and approvals prior to the donation. Land would need to be conveyed from parcel 12.4-18.3 to parcel 12.4-19.2. Via a lot line alteration, a minor subdivision would be required to parcel off the lands proposed to be donated from parcel 12-4-19.2, and a variance, that's us, concurrent with a subdivision review, would be required to reduce the 50-foot minimum width required for the pole portion of the proposed flag lot. Of these processes, the minor subdivision and land donation are subjected to the environmental analysis and determination per New York codes, rules and regulations, NYCRR, Title 6, Part 617, it's seeker in parentheses. So Niels, was there a notice of public hearing advertised, this public hearing?
This is not a public hearing. You're not
Okay.
making a decision. This is whether or not you contest lead agency
Right.
and whether or not the town or the Board of Zoning Appeals wants to offer comments.
Make some
to the town
comments
board.
and, yeah, okay, so it's not a hearing then,
That's not,
and it's not a public hearing?
that is not.
Okay, so I don't feel an obligation to open the floor to the public then. Is that true?
That's up to you. That's
Okay,
great.
it's up to me, I guess. Yeah, I'm not saying that I'm gonna do that, but I do want to hear from people. Did we get any comments, any written comments?
I will defer that to our town supervisor.
I can go get a notebook. Sorry, we have a printed.
Right.
Copy, I can grab it. The town clerk has been collecting public comment. We've received about 6 comments in opposition, primarily from residents on Cold Springs Road, who's received over 50 comments in favor.
From residents all around and all that.
Including on Cold Springs Road. So.
I'm
but
not
all
sure
of it-
we need that. So this is like general, Caitlin, it's like general.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you may want to consider that when you are considering a subdivision, potential of variance. If I can go get it for you, we have a physical.
Yeah, that'd be
binder,
fine.
if
At
you'd
some
like.
point, we would, I mean, I would like that.
I can grab
on
it and
record.
you can look at it.
But they're addressed to you guys and not to us, is that true?
No, so the public comment, a lot of the public comments are being addressed to the town clerk to distribute
Yeah,
to
okay.
planning board, BZA and.
Oh, okay, to all of us, yes, that would be great, thank you, thanks,
Sure.
Kate.
I will tell you that a lot of your audience and your Zoom are the Cold Springs contingent up
Good.
there.
All right.
So
I
they've been
think I
attending
do,
a
I
lot of
wanna hear from you,
meetings.
but,
Nope. I'm just here to see how you operate and do your thing.
excellent, no, that's
I,
great, yeah, I love the participation. And then we have a few people, several people up on,
And I'm
behind
actually gonna
you.
move to the front row because my hair is terrible.
Oh, okay. And then, I'll be probably looking at you, but I'm really looking at the screen behind you, because
Okay,
there's
I'm
people
sorry.
up there. And so I'd like to do that, a little bit later, if you remind me to do that. Yep.
So just a quick clarification, the BZA, we did not, as far as I know, receive any comments directed to the BZA
Right.
for this. We did receive 2 comments that directed to the planning board that were also shared with the town board, but nothing specific directed to the BZA.
Okay, great. Great. I think these would be really helpful. I'm not sure. I'd like to entertain some comments from the public tonight, and I'm not sure we need to do anything but have those. Can we have copies of those? Are those our copies or?
Yeah, those are hard copies. We have electronic copies. I'll make sure. that-
Yeah, great. So for the next, so when we, as you guys move this along, or as the lead agency, I should say, moves this along, and okay, I don't want to a spoiler on that one. So I'd like to turn the floor over to Niels to explain the nature and the details of the request to the BZA, I think specifically. And then later on, I want to talk about, there's some input from the members of the community. And I'd like to invite open discussion in that from the BZA board members. So if you don't mind, we'll like ask questions as you go along, but
Okay,
could you just give us a kind of a rundown of what we're asked to do?
sure. And if you don't mind, and if Caitlin and Liz don't mind, I think talking about the request itself would be best coming from the town board members. And if there's questions on process,
You guys mind?
I can definitely ask or answer questions about process and how we're getting to
Yeah, okay,
point A to point B.
all right. So take it away. What are we asked to do?
Well, if it pleases the boards, and so everybody can hear. Can everybody online hear us okay? Okay, looks like,
Motion.
so, the town was approached by Marvin and Allison Fritz, for a donation of, what after it was, there was a survey done, it comes out to 15.234 acres of land on Cold Springs Road. The Fritz own 2 properties on Cold Springs Road. Bulk of the property, or the bulk of the proposed donation would come from their primary residence. Back in the 1990s, they ended up having the opportunity, they wanted to purchase, there was a farm that was selling there. And in the 90s, they wanted to purchase the farm fields behind their house. And in order to do that, they had to purchase the farm field adjacent to their house. So it's all part of the same parcel. And then
There are 2 different addresses I saw.
there are, so
That's
that's
2
their
different
main
houses
residence.
too?
2 different houses,
Okay.
yes. So the second house, the second parcel is something that they purchased more recently than the 90s. I don't know the exact date. But they purchased that, and the proposed driveway would exist exclusively on, when I say driveway, the flagpole of the proposed subdivision would be exclusively on that rental property that they also own. So it would require, to go through the whole process, it would require a variance, it would require a lot line adjustment, and then a minor subdivision. Everything else.
And the lot line adjustment is for dividing.
Yeah, for
It's
dividing.
still the property they own. They own
Yeah.
both of those.
Yeah.
And they're 2 separate parcels. Is that what it comes down to?
Yeah.
And then the flag pole is on one of those parcels, or
Yes.
or is it gonna be on both?
So the flagpole would be located primarily on their rental property, and the interior acreage, which constitutes about 15 acres, is on their primary residence property. So but yes, all the land being discussed is on property currently owned by the Prince.
So it's 15.2 acres, you said, right? There were-
So yeah, the proposed
That they would
subdivision
be
is 15.234. It's a 234 makes it easy for me to remember.
And then how much property do they own? I didn't really get a chance to look at all the parcels around there.
I want to say they own an additional, I would say another 15,
Oh.
20 acres
Oh.
in addition to that, plus their residential property. So they own a sizable, this is a little bit less, if I recall correctly, and this is a little bit less than half of the property on their primary residence.
Right, I kind of got that. Did you look at it?
Yeah, well, I guess I didn't realize that they had two properties. I just looked them up and they do. So is 5150 their rental or their
Yes.
primary? And then 5230, which is unfortunately on the same side of the street.
Yes.
Yep.
I just realized, so we gotta fix that part. That is actually next door. So I was thinking when I saw 52 that it would be on the other side of the street as it should be. So they're literally, gotcha, I see it now. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
It's about 4 properties down.
Well, 51 and 52.
No,
Oh, 50. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. I was like, wait, if they're out, even and on.
And they're next to each other, those two houses?
They're-
No,
they're-
they're separate, right?
There are about 3 houses in between, I want to say.
Yeah.
Right, that's
Their,
what I
their
thought.
overall parcel where their property, their houses, where the residences.
Yep.
Cuts behind several other residential houses.
Right, like a few, how many, 2 or 3 or something? No,
Or,
no, between the houses, I mean.
oh,
Yeah.
between the two houses.
Yeah.
Oh,
And,
yeah, I see now. Okay, so they've
And
got
then
the one
they
that
own-
goes up to the pond
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then this one.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm assuming. I'm
Sorry,
not looking
you
at
didn't-
the
Yeah, yes, then this one,
Assuming
right.
You didn't know where my finger was going to
that-
go? Alas,
Yeah.
no. So it looks like it's
Well,
them
let's do it.
and then Dragonfire Martial Arts and then another house and then them. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
And then keep going that way, then I think you have the Shermans,
Yes.
the Beccas.
So that
Yes.
goes, and then
There's 3 houses between the 2 houses Fritz owns, so.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah, good. That's what I thought too. I was looking at things.
So these two. Okay,
Okay, and then go ahead, sorry.
No, that's fine.
Just informative.
It's an interesting shaped parcel, so I think it requires a little bit more description.
It's just a lot of his back. They bought a lot of stuff
They
behind
did.
them, basically.
They did.
Mhm.
And so they approached the town board with, a donation interest. The town board back in July, authorized, a survey to be completed. The survey was completed, in December, and now you find us here, in March. So the town board, has expressed interest in exploring further and triggered the, first round of, environmental review. I am not the environmental expert in the room, so I'm gonna probably pass the hand off the relay baton, so it's Liz Weatherby. But from the town board's perspective, there was initial interest, so, at 2 town board meetings ago, we reviewed, a draft, FEAF form which is the has been provided to interested agencies, including you, the planning board, the building department, and the county. The county has come back with no concerns.
Yeah.
So we've already heard back from them. In that resolution, we adopted the initial draft. It's not a final draft because we want comments. And it can be changed. And we declared our intention to be a lead agency, but of course, we're hearing from different entities. The county is no problem with that, and planning board passed a resolution that they're fine with that also, but that's a decision for the BZA to make. And so do you want to hit the highlights of what we were seeing in the environmental form? The one thing, before I do that, sorry, I'm just gonna pull that baton right back. What the purpose of this right now is really, we're looking simply at the subdivision portion of it. There have been no development plans made. The intention of the donation is for recreational purposes. The intention of the donor, if it's accepted, is that it will only be for recreational purposes. So the town couldn't accept this wonderful property and then decide we want to sell it for housing subdivision.
So that's gonna be a deed restriction?
It will,
Okay.
yes. If the town 50 years from now decides it's no longer, if it goes through and the town in 50 years decides it's no longer in the park business, it would actually be returned to the donor. So it's not that it could be turned into the new DPW headquarters, for instance. So particularly a donation of this kind, there is a restriction on that. Something else that the Brits have specified is that they do not want exterior illumination other than for safety purposes. The intention of any outdoor facilities would be dark to dusk. But at this juncture, we do not have any development plans. We do not have any plans in place for how the field. It is, and when I say field, I do mean the field it currently is. Everything being proposed for donation was most recently last year was in cultivation for corn. There's no woodlands that are being donated. There's no buildings that are being donated. There's a creek, the Halsey Creek runs behind it. That's not part of the proposed donation. It truly is what is currently, the very bottom of corn stalks. And so again, their purpose was for recreation. The other purpose, and why they approached us with this particular parcel is this parcel is approximately about 300 yards from land currently owned by New York State Parks as part of Taganic State Park. To the best of my understanding.
Where's that? That's along the creek?
No, it's a strip of land that runs for about 300 feet or 300 yards from the edge of the proposed donation. And it is believed to be a former spur of the Black Diamond Trail, And it runs all the way to Rabbit Run. Historically, it ran all the way into the village. When I was talking to New York State Parks, they think it might have been where trains are parked. It was not actually a connected line. So the connected line obviously went down what's currently the Black Diamond Trail. But this was, by all accounts, they believe there was a trestle over Taganic Creek. This was part of the railway system. It is still in ownership by New York State Parks as part of Taganic State Park. In conversations, I have spoken directly to property owners who there are 2 private property owners, including the Pritz and another property owner that own land in between the edge of what the proposed donation is to New York State Parkland. There are 2, the Pritz own some of the space to Halsey Creek, and then there's another property owner on the other side of Halsey Creek that owns land that then connects to New York State Parkland. We've had positive conversations with both of them about the potential of, in the future, not now, developing a trail. That New York, and I've talked directly to New York State Parks. I have been authorized to say they're amenable to having conversations about developing trails. They develop trails all the time. They develop trails on train lines all the time. They've developed, a dozen plus miles in the town of Ulysses already. And they're amenable to having conversations about future potential trailing. That's not part of this project, but I do want to be really clear about part of why this donation was proposed. New York State Parks land then connects all the way to Rabbit Run, which is still in the town of Ulysses outside the village. On the north side of Rabbit Run, I have spoken to a property owner whose property is on Rabbit Run and connects to the Trimsburg Central School District property, who is interested in exploring a donation because they purchased lands back in the day from New York State Parks. They used to be part of this trail. So while this is a long time in the future, this is not today's problem. Part of the reason this donation has been interesting, I think, to the town board is the fact that there is a very real potential with property owners who are already amenable to exploring this option of connecting this directly to the village in Trimsburg.
So bigger plans,
Exactly.
longer term and bigger.
The other consideration that was discussed is that at planning board, Linda in particular raised this is about agricultural land, taking agricultural land out of production. And this is, I think, in the town of Ulysses, this is unique agricultural land in the sense that it's existing on a public water supply. Most agricultural land in the town of Ulysses is not on public water. Cold Springs though does have a water line, and eventually this property could be connected directly to that public water line. When the town was previously considering a potential land for park purchase, there was concern that there was a concern by neighbors that well water would be impacted. The accessibility of public water would suggest in the future that any development that was approved, and that all development in the future will have to go through environmental review. We're not doing development yet. That would be a benefit to the community, that we don't have to risk the environmental there. So I just wanted to bring those items forward in the seeker, not the seeker document, the FAA. Was there anything else? It is a seeker document, yeah.
I mean, I think this FAAF, hopefully you guys all got a copy of it
Yep.
as part of your packet.
Yeah, we did.
It's pretty straightforward. Again, this is the FAAF for the subdivision and the variance, and the lot line. So it's, and then the donation. So the questions that we answered following the seeker handbook are directly, we considered what potential impacts may or may not occur from those activities, specifically subdivision, variance, lot line change. So it doesn't look into anything that would potential, because we have no idea what's gonna be there. So that could be another review down in the future, but right now this is what it's focused on. Obviously, just with those three things considered, there's not a lot of environmental impacts when you look at a subdivision lot line adjustment or variance.
So
But
this
happy
is
to
for the
answer.
subdivision lot line only.
Yes,
It's not for the exit,
because we don't know.
some
what's there.
driveway or anything like that, right?
So no, there's no driveway being constructed at this juncture, that this is literally just for the subdivision. It's impossible for the town to accept a donation of land that's not its own separate parcel. So this process is necessary for that. And the other thing is, would you mind mentioning what was pulled from the DEC?
Yeah, so there's several questions that are automatically answered if you use the DEC's FBAF or EAF mapper. You can either request a short form to be completed or the full form. So we did, when the preparation of this, and it was a combination of several different folks, including Niels, our legal counsel, myself, Caitlin. We used that mapper to initially answer some of the environmental questions. So
Like water and stuff.
Water,
all the things you have.
wetland resources,
Yep.
that does pop up as a significant community. Interestingly enough. I had-
Biological community, not human.
Yes, so I actually talked to the expert, Marvin.
Yeah.
About it, and he said it's actually not there, but it is mapped. But the property, like Caitlin said, we're looking at farm fields.
Just a label, they didn't say why, significant community,
There's a calcareous,
yeah, I
Yeah.
saw that.
there might be like a historic remnant of it, or it might be further in the woods, and it was ID'd as in the vicinity of the project site, not on. But it's
Right,
not
I saw
on
it, so
the
it's not on it, it's not even.
No, I mean,
This is
but-
just one of those things, it's the
Yeah.
vicinity where you had to answer those questions. It's-
Exactly.
Yeah, right, okay.
Exactly.
Marvin's interpretation was that it's out in the woods.
Yeah.
And that it's
Further
not
to the
in the part that's being
West.
proposed for donation.
off the property.
Yes.
Yeah, in the vicinity.
Yeah. So that's why that.
And that was just it, the calcareous,
That's all that popped up.
make sure, whatever. they call
No archaeological, no
it.
resources.
Wasn't there an archaeological something though, in there? Didn't they say, wasn't there, one of those was checked, yes?
It might be within an archaeological, they call it, it used to be an archaeological sensitive area. Which just, if you're doing certain developments, you just wanna make sure you're not gonna be impacting, meet with the SHPO. The State Historic Preservation Office, and make sure that you ruled out any potential for impacts to archaeological resources.
Right.
That could be something that through the environmental review is done later on,
Mhm.
once we know what's gonna be developed.
Right.
Right now, it's still gonna be used as it is right now. Subdivision's not gonna affect archaeological resources.
Mhm. I found an interesting one for us, maybe for later, but maybe not, is the, it's covering, it's crossing two zones right now,
Yes,
so how does that affect that? What zone will the flagpole be in?
The pole is mostly in residential.
Are
And
the rules are the same in residential as in ag? Yep. Okay.
then the bulk of the properties in agricultural.
Right. Good, I mean, makes sense. too.
The town does, as you well know, the town does have a parks zone.
Yep.
And at a future date, that could be an appropriate place.
That was,
Potentially
yeah, but
consider future,
That's
but that's
that's
not-
not us, we don't
not
do
only-
legislation here, but
right, but that
see what the comp plans.
right, and so do you think you're gonna include it, dump on it? Not,
We'll
whatever,
see.
we have to move forward a little
We'll
bit,
see.
yeah, that's a good one. Sorry to interrupt you, Liz, what else did you have?
I mean, I'm happy to answer any other questions on the form itself. If you have any other questions.
I think I did. That was one of them. I kind of raised my eyebrow at the archaeological thing, like, what's that all about?
So archaeological areas are mostly, if you have a flat area near a water bed, like a water body, you're most likely gonna be within an area of archaeological sensitivity. It doesn't mean anything other than that would have been where,
Are those all constructed water bodies other than
Nope.
the creek though?
no, those are natural over.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, waters where folks used to have their habitats and like live.
Sure,
So
right.
that's why there'd be more of a chance to find
Arrowheads and.
exactly
Yeah,
artifacts
right.
in those areas.
Uh-huh.
That's supposed to be on the top of the hill,
Animals.
not very water.
So that's been part of that whole wet area over there, that your swamp college, you're so proud of that university. You have.
Yeah.
Is it all swampy there? Is that why? Is that-
Swamp College.
Yeah, that whole region there just seems like it's got, those are not constructed, those are just like natural.
Yeah, there's some wet areas. This land actually is. I don't know if it's raised, but it's not. It's not wet. It's not.
There's drainage,
Yeah.
tile in there,
I'm sure
right?
there's
drainage.
Agricultural, yeah.
Yeah.
Drainage.
Right, it was tile a long time ago.
It's been farmed.
Oh,
for
I think it said
several-
archaeology and said tile, didn't it say it was old tiles or something?
Oh,
No,
are we really count?
No,
didn't
I
realize we're
just-
counting
I'm
old
telling you, I
farm tiles as
may be
archaeological
totally wrong, but I thought I saw
remnants
that.
now.
Okay, and you had wetlands, you had current acreage unknown, you just put unknown in the table,
For,
land use, covered types.
oh,
For EI land uses and surrounding the project site, on and surrounding, so maybe that's.
yeah, so I mean, that's a table that usually you fill out with full development,
Yeah, right.
because this is a subdivision.
Who
I
knows,
mean,
so it's basically,
it's pretty much farm
there's water
field
and it's all over the place and.
yeah, it's a farm
and so-
field with grass, mowed grass. Yes,
Just touching base, the archaeological historic site, it's because of the water line. That's, I'm not sure how that,
oh, is that what it was? There was a study done for the water line then.
it's the water distribution system.
Have additional historic. I don't.
Oh, you mean when they put the water line in, they
Yep.
labeled it as that?
Yep. They'll do that.
So
I've
that
seen
should have
it
been done as a
before.
study, not a resource.
So we have a couple of those that pop up on the times.
Really? Interesting.
Presuming New York is similar to the states I've worked in, archaeological sites are generally very secure.
Yeah, you won't know where they are,
Right,
unless you
so-
go. into
Yep,
the
you have
site.
to go to.
You
But-
have to have special
Yeah.
permission, they don't, so New York State Historic Resources are all recognized within the CRIS system, Cultural Resources Inventory System. Through the State Historic Resources or State Historic institution. And typically those archaeological resources are not identified because they don't want people to do.
Sure.
So,
There's a couple of historic markers over in that direction.
Yeah. and it would make sense that there have been active human use of those spaces along the waterways.
Yep, no surprise, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They had surface waters, later natural resources on or near the project site, surface waters and,
Oh, no, well.
yes, and yes, okay. Do any of the wetlands or other bodies adjoin the project site? Yeah, right, I mean.
Basically all surrounding the borders.
It's all around, right?
Yeah, so the Fritz are maintaining, they're not proposing donation of anything that is currently a
Water body.
water body that's either, intermittent or perennial. Thank you. Thank you. You can
So
tell
that
it's
intermittent
state.
stream, I guess it's intermittent, I didn't really check it out, but that one is not even gonna be in the flagpole, or the flagpole's gonna be next to it.
And I think both are. There's two intermittent streams and I think they're obviously the creek is perennial.
Right,
And I think the unknown. Just looking at that for the wetlands on the land cover map. We have
Just along the.
done a wetland delineation.
Yep.
That would be something we could do later on as one of the environmental studies, once we have a plan for development and information. If it's accepted.
I didn't look, but are they they're in the DEC, right, more recent, they're not?
What were you just looking at? The
Yeah.
information?
Yeah, so it's their new informational wetlands.
Right.
No,
So, and it's just along the creek along the north. So
interesting. Okay, well, that's for later, the only thing. You said something interesting, which is like, you're not even proposing a way in right now. You just wanna have a way, the flagpole is a way to get to the road, to get road frontage.
Right, and I mean,
That's right.
I would say long-term that there is the intention of running, I think that it makes reasonable sense that we would want to be able to access the property.
Yep, sure, I mean, yeah, there's
Right,
gotta be
like-
some plan in the future for that.
Right, and it would make logical sense to do it down the flagpole. At this juncture, there's no development being proposed, however. One condition that will show up on the survey that, I believe you've got a copy of the survey in your packet, is that you can see that the sand filtration for the septic system for the rental house, the Fritz's rental house, shows up in that proposed, flagpole. Well,
Is that the septic that needs to be moved?
yes, so
Thank
the
you.
septic tank does not need to be removed, does not need
Field.
to
Is
be
it the leach
moved.
Leach
field?
field,
But the
Yeah.
leach field needs to be moved. We already met with, Tompkins County, Whole Health. Our DPW, and I attended also. They thought it was a very straightforward process. They have the material, they have all the records of the existing septic system. It dates from the 1990s, so they're comfortable with the, unless we get in there and, right, the Fritz discovered that their septic tank for whatever reason is failing. The intention, is that, the field can be relocated and, a condition, if and when a proposal, or the donation is accepted, a condition of developing a roadway would be relocation of that, because obviously we never put a roadway.
And I didn't look at the LiDAR, but is which way is it sloping there? Is it sloping at all? It's gotta be, right?
I
No.
certainly thought of the parcel or just the
Sure.
grant or
Yeah, the part,
pole.
basically where you're saying, like, moving the septic, and if you move it upstream, uphill, it's not gonna.
So I think it is relatively flat, but please
So
don't tell me
this-
that. When the health department looked at it, Whole Health looked at it, they didn't see any concerns and thought there was plenty of space on the Fritz's, remaining property, there would be an issue, so.
Okay, good. Questions? Andy, do you have any?
I don't.
I do want to bring up some of the considerations for you. We ran into this with the Jacksonville Park, and we actually covered this, so I was a little uncomfortable, although you did measurements, right? Is that flagpole, how far is that from the intermittent?
I didn't do to
Stream.
the stream, and I just wanted to say, Niels, I think what you were trying to tell me was I went down a rabbit hole and I thought the EAF was for a proposed project. This puts it in a completely different perspective, and I shot a
Oh, there's
couple of,
way more.
yeah, no, and that,
Proposed development.
that really, really
Yeah.
helps, and I think that's what Niels was trying to get me to slow my roll, because I sent him a bunch of questions. I was like, I'm thinking about the Sherman's house and the driveway and the agricultural farm plan. I went and read that, and I said, okay, well, you guys are okay, because there's actually an easement for the purpose that you were maybe possibly proposing to use the property for, but that's all a moot point at this point. So when we look at this EAF, basically, great, so we have two things to decide tonight, whether you guys, the town board would be the lead agency, and the planning board approved that last night. The county planning board already approved it. I certainly would vote in favor of that at this point. And then whether we had any comments on the EAF, right? And this is, since it's just for the subdivision, do we suspend?
That clarified things for me. It's like, oh, just a subdivision. We're not even talking about any roads or.
Yeah,
It would help though, are we basically charged with suspending the extra knowledge, like just pretend we don't know anything else that's going on? Because I really did go, I've been in every one of the planning and town board meetings lately, watching them, hearing the comments from the Cold Spring folks, hearing the planning board. Planning board did a really good job last night of talking about the EAF, so I didn't want to spend a lot of time on our board discussing that, because they'd already kind of gone through that process. So I think where I was going with that is this should actually be pretty smooth for us if we're all in an
Yeah, if we
okay
want to
place.
hand over the reins to the
Yeah,
lead agency.
yeah, I mean, can
And then
we,
also, do we want to put any comments in? I mean, that's what we're here tonight for.
yeah,
But
we do a
I
motion
didn't
to do
realize
the-
we were not even talking about that.
There's gonna be.
I see a flagpole and I see a driveway, so that's, I think my mind went there. I mean, there's really no other.
Yeah.
Solution right now. I wouldn't mind sharing some comments with you. We had an issue with the driveway into the Jacksonville. And it's kind of, I think Andy was really clear about this. It's antithetical to a park to have it be not eco-friendly. And so having a driveway right next to the stream is not really, it didn't work. Am I remembering that right? That
Yes,
was like
yeah.
a really big.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. And also the distances being much greater in designated park zone, park zone, right?
Yeah, right.
So
If when it became the park zone, it'd really be egregious, like, but still, that ephemeral stream there, intermittent stream is. You gotta stay 50 feet away from it, right? I mean. In construction, we're at 50.
for construction,
or 100.
yes. Yes,
So we were worried about parking, that's another thing, and because, you know, you get people in there, getting them in there is a different thing, you know, but you get them in there and then the proposal was to park along the driveway there too, which we found, this committee found totally unacceptable. There's like all that stuff leaking and oil and all cars sitting there and all, and it's really going right into that stream. Those are our treasures, obviously. I don't need to lecture us on how important that stuff is to us in water, especially going down to a big treasure of the lake. So consideration for the future, just
Absolutely.
throw that in there. Maybe I should do this at another meeting.
No, I take any and all comments. on
Yeah, and if it comes to
friendly-
us, then we're, you know, I'm just, I can't guarantee the way anybody's gonna vote or anything, but I'm like, I'm kind of against it. I'm pretty much against it, and I don't wanna speak for Andy, but he was pretty convincing about it, the last time we did this in the park. Richard,
Yes, yeah, thanks.
so that was just a comment to you guys. Yeah, interesting. This is good information. Thank you. Really, really good. Can we talk about, do you have anything questions or? I don't want to dominate.
No, but it does seem like it's hard to fully think about and discuss this first step, recognizing there is a future step.
Steps.
Yes, steps and it doesn't seem like you can entirely segregate them.
Yeah, knowing that it's gonna come to us and we're kind of like, okay, but it's hard not to think, yeah, but what's gonna come to us and. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
That
Yes,
So I think what would come to you is the subdivision.
first, and then the flag pole.
No, that would be part of the subdivision. So what's coming to you now is simply, is feedback on the environmental review. What would be coming back to you if the town board chooses to.
And lead
move forward.
agency status, so those. two
Right,
things are-
yes. If it comes back to you, it would be for whether or not you would accept a variance of 38 feet instead of 50 feet, for a subdivision. That's what would come back to the board for consideration.
It's not the flagpole width, I thought it was that too.
That is,
So-
that is
That is
the flag-
flag-
that's the
That's
flag
flag-
gateway. So everything else
That's
is
road
zoning
frontage, so which is it, road frontage or the width, there's both?
The pole for the needs to be 50 feet. So the request is gonna be,
Less than
we
that.
think 38 feet at this point.
Okay, now what's the road frontage?
38
That
feet.
is the road frontage.
And what's the rule there?
supposed to be 50.
50.
It's just 50 because of the flagpole, basically.
Right.
And that's the same, I mean, you know, we always split these things up to two different things, but it wouldn't in this case, right?
If you're asking about the width, like the AR zone normally requires 400 feet, that is back in the flag portion of. Yeah.
And
So this would just be a flag.
And that is zoning compliant. If the pole is accepted.
Right. Okay, good, thank you.
And when we go through the list of questions, among those are, is there any other option? And is there a way to make this flag pole 50 feet? Would it like require the Pritzes donating the additional feet or something like that?
So it's not a lack of their willingness to donate the additional feet. This is the way to keep the residential property zoning compliant. So we could go to 50 feet and cut into the donation and cut into the residential, but there's not sufficient frontage of the residential
And the
rental property
Yeah.
to do both.
I see.
So they both can't
So
both
they need
be.
400, they're in the 400
It's,
zone.
no,
they're
it's
not in
100
the- are they?
and
200?
So
60.
if it helps, if board members looked at the presentation that the town board had.
Yeah.
Are you looking at this one?
Yep. So this is the lot as it is now.
Yeah.
That's gonna be donated, so it's basically west of the stream.
And is that residential there? Where does the
So-
residential stand?
This is, all these are residential. all
Oh,
on
and
the
then
front
back
here.
behind is ag? Is that
It's
how
all
it works?
ag. So the lot itself is currently 200 feet.
Okay.
The minimum required is 160.
Mhm.
160 plus 50. You're gonna lose 10 feet either on the pole, or you're gonna lose something either on the pole.
That's what you're saying, you can't hit,
Exactly.
well, one of them could be in violation, yeah, okay,
Right.
right.
If I could have brought you something zoning compliant, I wouldn't be here except for environmental fees.
That's what I tell people all the time, well, then we wouldn't be here, would we?
Exactly.
Okay, that's good to know. Is that,
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about the significance. At least on a percentage basis, it's less significant to take the 10 feet from the
Yeah,
200-foot
sure.
requirement that is to take it from the 50-foot requirement.
Thank you. How about the reaction from the neighborhood? Because that's not the only thing we have to consider. We have to consider change of the character of the neighborhood and all that stuff. So I immediately ran to traffic and lots more people in that and the sleepy road there.
Which is what I was thinking. I said I did as well, but I don't think that's really up for discussion really for
No,
tonight,
it's
right?
nothing. I
Yeah,
mean,
no, I've been listening to the concerns. I hear them.
we have to consider 5 of those, and that's a big one too.
Right.
Change the character of the neighborhood, and that's different than we interpret it differently than the environment, which is a whole nother one. So there's 2 of the 5 are pretty.
Yeah.
Did you change the character of?
So I think as we get into the development of the project, there are always ways to traffic studies. To get some numbers. I think it's really gonna be, this is not going to be for school use. So it's not like buses are gonna be coming in from schools, this is more for recreational activities. Either with some of the school unaffiliated programs, youth and adult programs, the town programs, youth and adult programs. Or even just families coming in.
Sure.
Have a kickball game or a softball game. So there is gonna be a change in traffic, but I think that overall. There are ways we can handle that on multiple levels when we get to the development phase.
Yeah.
So I'm
And I
not
know
putting
getting ahead
down
of us.
concerns by any.
Getting ahead of
I
ourselves here.
understand them, right, and
Yeah.
I'm hearing.
Mhm.
And I think there's other ways we can work.
And we just have to consider that, even though we're looking at like a 10-foot difference, we still have to consider all these things. Will this
Yep.
change the nature of,
Sure.
like,
The other thing I would point out too, is that regional
Makes sense.
parks are allowed use in the agricultural zone for the majority of the spaces. Community parks are allowed use in the residential section. So these are already, these types of potential long-term uses are already embedded in the zoning. So this is not
some weird.
Coming out of nowhere.
right,
Not on a-
exactly. This isn't going in the industrial zone, for instance, where community parks are not identified. Right, light industrial and community parks are not a natural fit, but in the zoning, these are already identified as potential uses. We have a golf course in our agricultural zone, right? Like, these are not necessarily incompatible with our existing zone.
Right.
So,
Yep, and part of it is. What's the rest of the community say too, of course, it's not just what's, well, it's legal, so we can do it, we can not step too far into that territory.
which is why we're also not proposing what the development will look like. Of course, this is.
Yeah, right.
The
Not there yet.
proposed donation is for recreational, there's no question about that. But what form, we have gotten comments, and if you go through the binder, we have gotten people who want dog parks. We have gotten people who want
Soccer
playing
fields.
fields for their kids. You name it, there's a range. We are not in that phase. We are simply, and what the town board has told me, we've not taken formal action on it, but what the town board has told me is that. That this is the first step to consider how we would develop it, but unless you have it, because we have gotten pushback of saying, well, why don't you come up with your development plan? In
Yeah.
advance, and it's like
Yeah.
really hard to do development plans that are site specific when you don't actually have control of the land. And don't have ownership of the land. Then it becomes really theoretical and very, very hit or miss and hard to.
Oh, I
make
get it, I
decisions.
know,
So,
but Karen wasn't wrong, it's kind of hard not for us to sit here and go, well.
Sure.
We have to imagine all of it, not just like, oh, we're only doing this one thing at a time,
Because what the development looks like will have an impact on how much it changes the character of the neighborhood.
Clearly, right?
Right.
Clearly,
I mean, if it's just like walking trails, I would say that would have minimal
little bike path going in,
impact.
you can have the drawing making it look very benign,
But if there's
Or you can do
pickleball,
what Todd Edmonds suggested was like, it's a great place to have a soccer field for a community soccer field, which is like, yeah, it might be, but that's a whole different.
or something that's become controversial, a lot of places are pickleball courts, which a lot of people love, but they
Right.
also create a lot of noise
Right.
and stuff like that.
well, and I mean, I think that if you imagine what a park looks like to you and you imagine, and I imagine, our visions are not necessarily compatible with each other. And
I
that's
guarantee
why it's important to have a community engagement process to come to those determinations.
Sure.
The 2009 comp plan says it is a priority to expand expand park and recreation facility in the town. That is a stated goal of that. But then it doesn't go into the level of, and we want to see one pickleball court because pickleball didn't exist. And, you know, that granular level has to be part of a community engagement plan. So the town board is not suggesting we're going to do X, Y, and Z with it. We're simply considering, is it in the town's overall best interest to accept a donation when the town doesn't have any park facilities in it. So we have a preserve that's amazing, but we don't have any parks.
And so will our decision here, I don't mean to be the lead agency and all that stuff, but whether to have, you know, allow the variance, will that affect your decision to accept it?
Definitely would be considered. Well, so how the process would work is that we're gonna collect all the environmental feedback. The town board will have to decide whether or not to, like any other, like very similar to other purchase agreements.
Yep.
Go into basically a real estate transaction, and that would be the donation agreement. But it would be subject to subdivision, because we can't accept anything that hasn't been subdivided.
Subject to subdivision.
So it would be subject to legal processes for subdivision.
Mm-hmm.
So the town board, if the town board chooses to go that direction, would be in the place to accept a donation agreement. But it doesn't get finalized until the legal processes are followed.
Sure.
So that would end up coming back. So you won't have an opportunity to say yay or nay on the subdivision until the town board says we're willing to take the next step.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Caitlin, did I hear you say in one of the meetings too, because it's a donation, this doesn't go to public vote, it's a town board, it's a yay or nay on the town board.
That is correct. So under New York state law, only things that are expressly allowed to be subject to permissive referendum are allowed to be. There is no legal mechanism for the town to say, put anything we feel like to a vote, right? There are very specific things you're allowed to put to a vote, and land donations for recreational purposes are not legally allowed to be considered for permissive referendum. So that's just the way it is.
So that kind of brings me back to what I was starting to say, like, we have two questions we should be addressing tonight. I want to be respectful to the people on the other side. I've been there with you people. I know what it's like to sit through hours and hours and hours and hours of your life in these meetings. And I've listened to you and all the meetings. The board members can go back and watch those meetings and hear your thoughts, hear your concerns. But that's not going to help us make decisions on these two questions, because we are basically suspending disbelief of what's going on with the property. And we just have to answer whether we object to you acting as a lead agency and whether we have any comment on the EAF. That's really what we're tasked with tonight. And so I would like to just sort of, if we can.
No, I like that. I like that. But I want to add one more thing. I want to know what the lead agency would be responsible for, because we may be fielding a lot more than just making this decision if we're the lead agency. So it doesn't take my decision whether we want to choose to be the lead agency or not.
And if the county becomes, or the county,
Not
if
the
the town board becomes the lead, you mean whether the BZA wants to be the lead agency?
Yeah, we have to decide who's the lead agency, and I want to know what the lead agency's responsibilities are, other than, I mean, we know what we do. We deal with variances and stuff, but what would it be if we were the lead agency? We've been the lead agency on several things.
Just in relation to variances, though.
What?
Just in relation to variances, though.
Right. And that's all we would deal with.
Correct.
Right.
Even if,
But if you want to tackle this, or do you want to tackle it?
Go for it.
So after talking with Nate, if the board goes to agreeing that the town board should be lead agency,
Yeah.
we can just do that through a motion.
Yeah.
If you want to challenge, that should be in a resolution. What then happens is, I don't know how long the process here in New York takes, but that has to go up to state.
that's what I thought. It gets more, it's a challenge, and then the challenge has to go up somewhere.
It's a challenge between the BZA and the town board, and the state makes that decision. I'm presuming there's a hearing that's involved.
So the challenge doesn't have to be, we want to be it, it could just be, we don't want you to be it, is that the deal? I mean, how's that work? I'm not. Okay,
No,
don't go ahead and run.
I think the only agency left is you guys, so it's just between you and
Yeah,
the town
that's
board
what I
now.
thought.
Yeah.
So I think that's the only reason I was probing a little bit more, like, oh, well, what is this gonna entail, and who's doing that, and are we feeling all this stuff, or are we still just?
It was my
Really?
understanding we would just be doing the variance piece. And so,
That's what
and
we do, right?
I would say that being the planning board and the county have already approved that. I feel that their expertise, I would personally think that, and would vote for. The motion were made, I would vote for that to be the town board to be the lead agency.
Thank you. Yeah, and I would vote for you guys fielding all this other stuff too. But we will get some, we will definitely get it when it comes down to it, and, you know, a lot of people show up, and I see a lot of people here, but.
Yeah.
Sometimes the room gets full and people are here to say, voice their disagreement with us passing, saying, yes, no problem, so.
And we've been keeping tabs on the planning board meetings and any other meeting that's going that we're not physically at.
Yeah.
And allowing their lunch, and then just to make sure I'm hearing the comments too. I'm sure you are, and some of the other board members as well. So if there are meetings in the future that we're not here, and just Niels can say there's a discussion about the parking, I'll watch the video. That's the beauty of having all of these taped.
It's great, isn't it?
Yes,
It's really
it's
great. Yeah.
like,
Thank you, guys. Doing great, doing great. Job. Okay. Anything to add? I mean, I'm,
Yeah, no, maybe.
I came in here ready to go. Okay, we have two
Yeah.
things we're doing. That's all there is to it. Do we want to tackle and then we can vote on both of these? Just vote, right? We don't have to do a resolution or anything like that. All right. Let's go with the easy. Isn't the easier one, the second one, which is whether we have to want to put up any comments for the leaf it was, right?
Yeah, I have to withdraw mine. All the comments that I sent to you, I'm respectfully
You can
withdrawing,
save them, right?
withdrawing. I sent them to Dick Meals and Molly in that Word
Can you
document.
save them for the future though?
I can, but they obviously don't apply concerning the subdivision. I was asking questions about parking in the driveway and I had all of
Oh,
this
yeah,
stuff
yeah,
that
yeah.
was,
Right.
I'd spiraled out of control a little bit. So
Well, no, that's where we're gonna probably get to at some point.
I'm pulling back and waiting for the process.
All right, so do you think that we should put in a formal comment to these? I mean, what's the exact question? Yes.
For
Put
which
it to
one?
us, whether we gonna do the FEAF, we're gonna put in formal comments or something, is that what we're voting on?
For process, I think you should, I think the board should resolve whether or not they're gonna challenge the lead agency.
Challenge what?
Lead agency.
That should be our
For
first
sure,
question.
That should be your first one.
Okay. We'll put the vote.
I don't see a reason to challenge it.
I would make a motion that the Town of Ulysses Board of Zoning Appeals supports the town board being a lead agency in this action.
Okay, second that motion, anyone?
Second,
All right, I'll put it to vote.
I,
All right, unanimous, it passes, so great, congratulations, you're the lead agency. You're not smiling. No,
Yeah.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
Do all the public hearings necessary and all of the.
Yeah, right. Okay, what about the comments?
So, yeah, second part.
Okay,
This, I mean, if the board has any comments or if you saw any missing information or errors in the FEF, this would be a great opportunity for that. Or if there is any additional information you think the town board should consider in the EAF.
I did see a missing check mark. I don't know if anybody else noticed that.
I
So
believe Carl,
did he say that last night? I was playing the planning meeting at 1:30. I must have missed that. Sorry, I was trying to catch up fast. Okay, so perfect. That was my only
okay, yeah,
specific comment was it looked like there was a check mark missing under the EH3 section or E3H. Okay, perfect. Great.
nice.
Everything else I'm withdrawing. Thank you.
Yep.
For the clarification.
I phoned through it, phoned it over, poured through it, poured it over. I feel like you guys got it covered, but this is just for the subdivision only. I'm fine with it. You too?
Yeah.
Okay.
subdivision
Subdivision.
acquisition.
Lot line adjustment, right?
Acquisition.
Donation.
Donation.
The no development, no development.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yep, I'm fine with it. Nice job, too.
So if that's the consensus of the board, it'd be helpful just to have a motion that you have no comment to provide to the
Okay,
council.
someone want to say?
Sure, yeah, I move that the Town of Ulysses Board of Zoning Appeals offers no comments at this point. At this time for the EAS.
Second.
Okay, I'll vote.
I,
Aye. Okay, carries unanimous. Good job. That was a good job. Thanks for the update too. That was really helpful for us.
I am gonna encourage our board to go back and spend the time and watch the meetings. The comments from from the people that are up on the screen right now and here are really valuable for future thoughts. There was, I noticed at one of the planning boards, there was some misinformation that had been shared, Caitlin, and I think or Elizabeth, you did it too. You guys helped kind of dispel that, which was interesting to hear. So I think that there's a lot, even though it's only going to come to us for the variance, it's going to be helpful for us to have all the background. So I feel all caught up now and ready for the next meeting.
Yeah. go
I
ahead.
just wanted to personally say, I'm only speaking for myself when I say this, but what I'm hearing a lot of is concerns about how it will impact adjacent properties, and those concerns are not falling on deaf ears. I personally am committed to, and I know the donors are also in support of creating whatever necessary buffers are needed to help screen visual, to if fences or trees or bushes or things like that, that there's a lot of, I will speak for myself saying that I want to make this an asset for the neighborhood, not a detriment to the neighborhood, and that there are many ways as the planning board in particular has worked on to mitigate impacts. And so I would personally be working directly with anybody who is interested in working to help ensure that. So that's not off our radar screen. If and when development happens, we would want to do that, and that's part of the reason, I'm very supportive of not having overhead lighting, right? Not having 10 o'clock, stadium lights in spaces. So I just wanted to make sure that was shared. Thank you.
Yeah, it's important. We're not a legislative body, but you are, and you can change the rules. And if you start changing the rules, we had the Taganic Inn was pushing to change the noise ordinances and lighting and signs, and that was. Are you nodding? Or are you? Are you nodding, Andy?
Yeah.
Remember what?
Yes,
Right?
yeah.
So. You just have the power to do that, but you might not think about that.
I was just speaking for myself. I think
Yeah,
that
that's
those
good.
are
No, it's
fair
good.
concerns.
No, and I have to run and get to basketball practice.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
But thank you very much. And
If you
I
had a
will be
court over
listening.
at the new park, you could just be right on the corner.
Except it's dark,
Indoor right now.
so no.
No lights, yeah.
no
But
lights.
I'm gonna watch the video.
Too soon,
You-
people, too
Great.
soon.
I wanna hear what everybody says.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Liz. Okay, I normally have the board talk and have had the open I've opened the meeting to the public for public comment, but this is not the other board meeting, so I like any comments. I'm gonna do that right now and open it up for just short, brief comments. If you wouldn't mind out there, if you give a comment, please introduce yourselves and keep it brief, but more importantly, keep it to the point of what we're talking about here. I'm gonna now open the public portion for public comment right now. Anybody out there in Zoom land?
Wait, are you asking them to suspend disbelief as well if there's a future project and you want them to only comment on the subdivision?
I'd like it brief anyway.
Okay,
Okay, I actually want to hear, I don't want to hear stuff. I just don't want to hear about, liberty in America and all that stuff. Yep.
Hi, Tyler Sherman, 5250 Cold Springs Road. We're right next to the rental property that the Pritzes have. I know we're supposed to be suspending belief, but I have some questions that need to be, I'd like some answers to, or have you think about. I'll keep it brief, but I've spoken to the Pritzes multiple times, and they are, although we disagree on this, we have an open line of communication. My biggest question is, how can you change zoning or grant a variance if there are no plans? Because
That's a good question, but neither one of them is being proposed tonight.
no, I know. I just got to put it out there.
Okay.
And then I just, I'd love any one of you or all of you to come out to the property, meet with me whenever is good with you, and just walk it and just physically see it for yourself. I'd really, really appreciate that. And I think you'd get a better understanding of it. So please feel free to reach out to me. My dad is in the audience, and we'd love to have you all come out and take a look. Thank you.
Great, thank you, thank you. We might take you up on that. We often do site visits before we make a decision. Yep.
I'll make
Dad?
it brief too. It's nice to talk to a different set of ears, just.
Yep.
But I just
Are
like,
you the dad? Are you Mr. Sherman?
I'm sorry,
No, that's fine.
I'm the dad, I take care of the place. This is the boys vacation home and ultimately retirement home.
Uh-huh.
It needs to be, transparency is the big thing we ask for, and I know there's no plan, but it's a small town. They want, it's about the fields, the soccer fields and different things. It's under a park for the heading of basically you can do about anything. Ultimately, you know, 2 packages, whatever, the land, they're gonna want the driveway. That's the way to get in. And I just don't see, with being what it can be, I don't even, we don't call it a driveway. It's a roadway. You gotta get 2, I don't care what's said, you know, what's 2 buses, 2 fire trucks, ambulance, and still walking traffic. And I don't think, you know, they call it this generous donation. We got to do things right. Just because we can't take the extra footage to keep his other house right and make it. Let's run this like it wasn't our in-house business. It's not the board. It's Joe Public coming for something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just want consideration and transparency. And like my son said, I absolutely would love to have y'all come out and physically, you know, pictures that were taken of the field. Well, if you'd have gone like this, there's the yard in the back of the house. And just, I would love anybody to come see it. And the smallest of fraction would want this in their neighborhood like it is.
Mhm.
I mean, the roadway and there's the garage. It's just, I thank you for your time.
Well, thank you. And thanks for the
just
invitation too.
appreciate your consideration
We're
into
not-
everything.
We'll consider all that whenever
Thank you.
it comes to us. But don't, this should not be your last input. Don't be,
No, it's not.
if we're doing that, write letters and send to the
One
BZA.
quick
we'll
question.
decide. Sure.
Can I take this as, you know, I asked, sorry, I get hoarse. I get a little more.
Sure.
Regardless what happens here, the board makes the decision whether to accept the donation and whatever's done. They don't have to put any vote out there. Would I be remiss to say we need to hit the streets and have petitions signed? Like I know they're getting things done.
Mhm.
I would hope somewhere in this majority does prevail as far as the last time they wanted to do something similar. So am I correct in saying we should be hitting the blocks and getting
You
all
can
this?
say what you want and that you're not out of line in this
Okay.
room, but,
Well, like I say,
thank you though.
thank you very much.
Yep, and then I think, as a general thing, I'm just gonna say, I like people voicing their opposition, but I really like when people provide solutions.
Understand
So
that.
that would be helpful too, maybe, just as another citizen, it's like, yeah, that's a good thing, instead of
Understand.
just
Thank
throwing bombs and, you know. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Sherman, appreciate it. Anybody else,
Yes,
online?
yes, please.
We have another-
My name is Jill Strothman and I live at 5291 Cold Springs Road. And among the group here, I've been on Cold Springs Road the longest. I've been here 24 and a half years. And this will change my lifestyle completely. This road, we have farm equipment that goes up and down. I know because my partner was James Meeker and we brought equipment up all the time. It's nonstop. I also see motorcycles that go flying up. They're not doing 45 at all. We also have people that walk on the sides of the road where you have to very carefully watch because you don't know what's coming from behind you to the front of you. So the Pritz, I think their intentions were honorable, but I feel that this location is not the best at all. That one person is going to change. We don't know what this recreational idea is and how it's going to immensely affect us regarding noise, interaction with the commotion of the cars, the buses, because everybody's got different points of views and what's going to happen. But the bottom line is these people are coming in for a few hours a day and then they go home. We don't. We're there nonstop from sunset to dusk. And in the summertime, that's 9:30. I lived on Main Street as a child. It was busy. It was never quiet. I came back and I wanted to live in the country. I wanted it where it was quiet, where I could watch the animals and talk with my neighbors and not have the commotion. And now I'm going right back where it was. And I'm disappointed that that the Fritz didn't talk with their neighbors to find out how we felt. And now I don't feel that the town of Ulysses is listening to us either.
Okay, thank you. That's all helpful comments. This is not the last place to do this. If you send in written comments and when
And
we
I have.
at the BZA, we consider those comments. They're not the only thing, but it's certainly one of the things we consider.
Yeah,
So
I've sent letters to both
okay,
the
keep doing
town.
it. Keep doing it.
Okay,
Anytime we have it comes up before us in this committee and this board, then we always take seriously the letters. So please do. Thank you very much. Thanks for your input.
thank you.
Okay. Unless that one last person wants to say anything, I think I'm going to close the public portion of the meeting. Thanks for your comments. These are very informative.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Sherman. Niels, any other points that you would like to bring up here? Because you're kind of keeping us in line and what we're we've achieved what we set out to do, the two things, right?
Yes,
Okay, anything else?
expeditiously. Thank you.
No, I don't know about that, but
No, I mean, it's now up to, I guess, the town board and legal and process moving forward before the application goes before both the planning board and BZA. So I'm presuming that may occur sometime later this year if everything goes smoothly,
I mean,
potentially.
potentially, I mean, we're still collecting feedback. The planning board hasn't finished their feedback, so we have to, at a future town board meeting, we'll have to take that into consideration, and then the town board will decide if they want to proceed forward. And if they proceed forward, we'll see you again in some unknown number of months.
and as you said, it's not going to be a community vote. It's just going to be a vote with you guys, your board, right?
I mean, that's what we're only legally allowed to do.
Yeah, right. Mhm. Okay, great. Anything else? Any other questions for?
No questions. A comment though, I think it is important that, we're looking for recreational space, parkland in the town. We're never gonna find a perfect spot. The site we looked at previously, that was under review, had a lot of imperfections about it. It was a very generous offer, and this site seems to be, has a lot of those objections are not existent in this site. But again, we'll never find a perfect spot, but, and that, I guess that's the only thought I had, is that, it's interesting, and I'm glad we're moving forward and considering it, listening to, everyone's concerns.
Yeah, and I'm serious about, just for the community, it'd be nice to have solutions being, maybe Andy's right. These are complex. I mean, there's like gonna be competing desires and interests and all that. So
There was a proposal at the planning board meeting last night for an indoor rec.
there.
No, at the former
Something
Boreas property.
Oh, okay.
So I would say take a few minutes and just kind of
Yeah, look for other
look.
solutions.
I'm not saying that's another solution. I think that's completely separate. Obviously, this would be outdoor, that's indoor. I'm thinking, one is,
Yeah, I get it.
you could have both, right? You have your indoor for your winter, you could have the outdoor. I'm not making a judgment, I'm just saying. There's a lot of good input coming all the way around
Mhm.
from all of the different board meetings. And I just feel like sometimes we get to these and then we're all making everybody relive the exact same. It's like Groundhog Day for Niels and Molly, probably. Like, we just did this last night. So that's all I was saying is there's a lot going on and I think that there's a lot of input and I think people are putting a lot of time and thought into it, so.
And people that care, this is not just out there, trying to take care of things. So. Yes.
And to that point, I think it's all good, because you need to forget, there were, back in 2023, when there was a public vote, that, the town did not proceed with another project because we heard what the public said, they didn't want us using American Recovery Fund Act money. So we did respond to that. There were concerns and that frankly were part of the reason that if this was internally vetted to see if it addressed concerns that had been raised on the previous potential fund, which was including the well systems. This doesn't. Grade issues, this is 0 to 2%. Accessibility to the village. This was explored too. Those were all complaints that we heard on a previous round that were taken, and those are just a few. But this isn't, when it came forward, when the princes approached us, it wasn't that we automatically were like, and yeah, we're gonna do this now. It was really like, what are the concerns that have been raised and how does this potentially address some of them? But to Mr. Holmes' point, there's the perfect piece of land has never been offered for donation. And we don't have any money to necessarily go out and purchase. So.
Yeah, and Neil's, the two board meetings that you had recommended that we watch, I think Caitlin, you actually did a really good job of going through each of the things that were previously a concern and stating how you guys had addressed them. So that was helpful to hear here's what the problem was with the Crumbs Corner property. Here's how we're looking at it this way. And you went through step by step by step. So it's trying to save you from having to do that.
I appreciate that.
Looking for the efficiencies here.
Well, and we should have, on Friday, I think we'll be able to post, some frequently asked questions, it's like 25 or 26 of them. To help clear, and one of those is addressing those particular concerns head on. Because those were, we heard from the public and those are worthwhile things to consider.
Great, thanks. All right, so I want to bring this to an end, unless I'm going to anything more to add. Okay, and the last thing we usually do is I just say, does a town board liaison have anything they want to add other than what we just talked about here? So since you're here as the town board, you can be the liaison. How's that?
Well, I'm actually your alternate.
Wow.
Rich reached out to me to find out if I was going, and then
is he back from wherever
he
traveling?
is back.
Gallivanting?
He is back. He heard I was coming and said, "Well, then I'm not going," because he has an 8 o'clock meeting tomorrow.
Oh, I should stop by and bother him.
So he's doing that. So I would say that this is the primarily related to the BZA. This is the most critical thing in front of us, but just an ongoing support for encouraging everybody to participate in the comp plan process, which will ultimately guide the planning and zoning updates that will come back to the full circle to the BZA. So the survey will be active through the end of this month. So it can take you 5 minutes or more if you want to put in more comments. But please do take the time because it's really important to have everybody's voices represented. So I think this is probably the most critical.
And along those lines, there's I don't know if we do it now or sometime in the future, but there's some things that we hit that come here and it's like, it's a little, they're either contradictory or in our zoning usually, or they go against something else in another page somewhere else, and I can't think of more than one or two right now, but sometimes we hit those. And so when's bet, is this the time or never say it again? Or can we just communicate with you guys?
So I think
because we can't legislate, we can't change.
Right.
That's not what we do here, but
no, but we know, I know personally that there's zoning incompatibilities in terms of how the laws are written and so we want to clear that up. What I will say, my intention is to have the town board go after funding to do a zoning update as soon as we can finish up, roll the comp plan update into a zoning update.
Okay.
Because I know it took a long time.
That would be separate then. It would be in the comp plan.
But it won't be in the comp plan, but it's really helpful to know. I have this idea of dropping our zoning into AI and seeing what contradictions show up if they can show it. But we know from practical.
It'll also make stuff up, so be careful.
Well, no, absolutely no. Just to see if they would produce a list of where there might be some contradiction. Not.
Neil's had some good commentary on this last night in the planning meeting because this came up and they were stating that the zoning was directly contradictory to the previous comp plan. The 2019 zoning they were talking about last night. So yeah, there was some good comments there too. It was very helpful.
And I wasn't talking I wasn't going meta on this one. I was
Okay.
going like very specific things more.
Please let us know what they
It's like,
are.
here's one that does bug me, and it's, the setback is 50 feet, but you get to encroach on that by 10, so it's really 40 feet. Cool. I mean, I don't know what that's all about. Do you have an explanation for that?
And
Whenever we do front yard or.
I think
side or.
this, I mean, it's one of the sections of our code that is in much need of improvement, but most current codes
Mhm.
that use best practice have built-in modifications in them so that, if there's a request or if that can be determined to be minor, don't need to come before a board for variance. So,
Right.
I mean, and what you're talking about is specifically for accessory structures like a shed, something that's fairly minor.
Mhm.
So if you have a setback that's 50 feet for something minor, the town has already determined that, we don't need a variance to say, sure, you can.
It's something minor, but you can't put your house there. No.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but we run into that in the lakeside a lot because we're considering those trams something minor, right?
Yep.
Staircases and all that kind of stuff. Right. But boathouses.
Yep.
Okay. I'm still really bothered by some of that stuff. Anyway, there's some contradictory ones too. That one's just kind of odd, very odd, as an example. Anything else? Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks so much for attending and clarifying. This is good. This is really helpful.
Thank you for your thoughtful work tonight. I appreciate it, and always, but
Yeah.
tonight in particular.
Thanks. Okay, anything else? Anybody want to add anything? I hear a motion.
Move to adjourn.
Oh.
Second.
we have a motion on the floor.
I jumped on that one, sorry.